Welcome back, Growth Nation. Dave Rogamoser here, and welcome to Scale or Die, the show where we uncover proven growth strategies behind some of the world's fastest growing startups. This is season 2, and today we've got a new friend, Blair, with us, CEO of Buildfire. Buildfire is basically, as he was describing it to me, WordPress for mobile app development and allowing anybody to build a mobile app without having to learn how to be a developer. It's a company I heard about a few years ago. Kind of was watching, over time, heard about it through a few friends. It's fun to actually be able to sit down and talk about it here today. So, Ian, welcome to the show, man.
Absolutely, and glad you're here in my home city of San Diego.
Oh yeah, I forgot. This is the first ever Scale or Die we have filmed outside of the normal studio in Austin, Texas. We're on the rooftop in San Diego, San Diego's tallest residential building. Here on the 45th floor, which is awesome. So
I'll take it.
I'm loving the San Diego
life.
life.
Views any day.
Dude, so before we start talking about SaaS, we were talking before this, and you have a car that is worth over $300,000. Tell me about the car and your philosophy around why this car works for someone that, how old are you?
I'm 26.
I was 26, running a new SaaS company that's growing quickly.
Yeah.
But what's your thought process behind that?
Well, I love that you bring up cars because cars are a big passion for me. I've always grown up around them. So I think one of my big inspirations for going into business in general was, how do I end up buying cars later in life? And you can't really afford them if you don't start your own business eventually. So I recently purchased a McLaren 600 LT Spider, or not a Spider. My buddy just got the Spider, but I just got the 600 LT Coupe. And
this thing shoots flames.
Shoots flames out the back. I mean, it's a true driver's car. It is unbelievable. Like the sound when you're driving it, just the experience, how fast you can go. I mean, there's nothing like, getting behind a McLaren and just driving fast. And it's almost, if you think about it, like we're just kind of zombies driving our normal cars. They're tame. They're not fun. Like
that's what I'm looking for, man. I'm just trying to get from point A to point B.
Point A to point B. It's no fun though. So I think you get to be a kid again in these exotic cars. And then plus, like it obviously brings a lot of attention, and it could be good or bad, but really...
You've met people.
I've met a ton of people. Yeah.
Coffee and cars.
Cars and coffee events. I mean, what's really interesting about these cars is generally, like, people that own them, they're business owners, they're interesting people, and cars are a way to bring people together. It's a common thing that I think a lot of entrepreneurs are into. I think it brings up a lot of interesting conversations. I think the whole network it opens you up to is incredible. And I want to learn from other people that have achieved success, because I think the biggest key to success is surrounding yourself with others that you ultimately want to be like. How can you learn from them? And I think you do that. It's a great way to mix both business and pleasure. So it's been an incredible experience.
Do you think you'll get Buildfire clients from just hanging out with cool car crew?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, one of the interesting things about Buildfire and kind of the market we serve, like the majority of businesses can benefit from having a mobile app. So I almost view it as like I'm selling bread, right? It's like selling like a phone service or accounting, like every type.
Anybody you meet kind of has some app in the back of their mind. They're saying, oh, we've kind of thought about doing that.
I mean, you just go to a bar and someone's got an app idea. Like essentially everyone has app ideas, and I think it's a really cool way to, start a conversation. And, also having one of those cars kind of means you're a little bit legit. So
it's a little bit, maybe more fun than Facebook ads. So put the money into something else.
That's very true. You just got to be tasteful with it. You don't want to be one of those like internet marketers, driving around a Lambo. Hey, look at me!
Shooting 4-foot flames out the back. Yeah, dude, that's a fine line. That's good. Cool, man. Let's talk about Buildfire. So I guess describe, what do you guys do at Buildfire? What's the business model? Just like, what's the background of the company in a nutshell?
Yeah, so Buildfire, it's a SaaS mobile app development platform. It essentially allows anyone with no coding skills to sign up and start building their app on their own. And the way our platform works is we have these things called plugins, which are like modular units of functionality. So when you're building your app, you have a wide range of plugins you can choose from. So say you want videos in your app, boom, you just add the YouTube plugin. Say you want to add events, we have an event plugin. And you can essentially use all these modules to build your app. And it's similar to a lot of other do-it-yourself app building platforms, but really what makes Buildfire distinctly unique is the fact that you can that we have a robust developer SDK where you can actually build your own custom plugins on top of our platform. So instead of actually having to build an entire app from scratch, you can use a lot of our existing functionality to get you 80 to 90% of the way there. And you only need to build that unique functionality. That's if you're looking to build a custom app where we don't necessarily offer that out of the box. And you get to tie into all of our back-end services. What a lot of people don't realize is when you're building an app, there's a lot of back-end infrastructure that goes into building and maintaining it, you have your servers, your load balancers, your CDN, your database servers. Like there's truly a lot that you need to maintain, and Buildfire simplifies a lot of that.
Gotcha. And how do you charge?
So we have a monthly subscription fee. It starts as little as $59 a month and goes up to several $1,000s a month depending on what you're building. So if you're just looking to build like an app for a small business, you can get started for as little as like $59 or $149 a month. And obviously as you move further up in price point, you unlock more features like any other.
You've got the SaaS that's like the self-serve or mostly self-serve, but then you also kind of pull people out of there and say, hey, do you want us to just build a very high-end custom app on our own platform? Like, how did that come about where you're actually building these big apps for people?
Yeah, it's actually pretty interesting. So as a SaaS company, when you're early on, your software is like fairly limited, and also you're limited into your addressable market. So when we first started our business, we were thinking like, how can we just churn out a lot of these templated apps? And we were thinking much more along the lines of like a Wix or Squarespace for app development, where it's just kind of meant for your average small business owner. And what was really interesting about apps, and like this is the important aspect of like when you're developing a product, like how do you get feedback from the market? And we had a lot of people wanting to say, because like think about when people have their app ideas, they want us to do that, they want us to do this, and we weren't able to actually build that in a scalable manner.
It wasn't flexible and people couldn't go in and do that stuff?
Yeah, you were just limited to whatever functionality we would offer, and if we did want to develop something custom, like essentially the whole platform would get it. So we had to rethink the way we were building our apps, and that's why we kind of went towards this modular functionality, where it's more plugin based. So any app can have these like unique combination of plugins and features. So we ended up rebuilding the platform, enabling us to do that, and then we wanted to move further up market and attract like higher value customers. And that's not as easy as it sounds, but we started to attract those types of customers, and people come to us with their app ideas, and it's like building a house, because people are always like, oh, how much is an app going to cost? Well, is this like if you actually use the housing analogy, think about like a trailer, like those are just off the shelf. You can deliver them really quickly and cheaply. But if you're trying to build like a 10,000 square foot mansion, like that's obviously going to cost a lot different. So same thing with apps, right? There's a reason why Uber has like over 2,000 engineers, because we'll have people that come to us and say, hey, like I want to build this like Uber for this. And it's like, well, do you realize like actually how much infrastructure goes in behind building these types of apps? And a lot of people don't necessarily realize that. So
interesting. And how big of a, I guess, part does the services side play into just the overall company strategy and growing the SaaS?
Yeah, so actually the agency became a big part of accelerating our revenue, and also really accelerating revenue on the SaaS side as well. So I see, well, in general, I think when you look at enterprise SaaS, you have a lot of the times there's always services revenue associated with the platform. And a lot of the times when people are buying into your product philosophy, they're not necessarily the ones that want to execute it, right? They want a kind of a done-for-you solution. They might buy into your vision, but they're somewhat looking to you to actually help them accomplish that. So in our particular case, it actually makes a lot of sense, because people will come to us with an app idea. They want us to just build it for them. So it's really nice, because it's, in SaaS, it's really tough on cash flow. Say you close like a large, say $100,000 deal, you're only going to be making like $8,300 a month, for 12 months, right? And you get paid out over time. So you might have like a 4 or 5 month payback or whatever it may be. And what's nice is with the upfront revenues, you get like that immediate payback, and you can actually start to reinvest those dollars back into sales and marketing to go generate more cash.
Are you guys funded?
We raised a total of about $3 million from friends, family, some small family offices, and we actually always raise money kind of as we've been getting traction over time. We didn't, like, the largest sum of money we've ever gotten at once is like $1 million, and that was our last round about maybe a year and a half ago. But we always started off with revenue. Actually, the way I started the business was I started white labeling another app development platform. So I basically got to start my own SaaS company for like $300, which is essentially unheard of. And I started building up a customer base, and once we had customers, it was a lot easier to say, hey, we need to go build our own technology. Did that, and then still continue to acquire more and more customers. And it's a lot better value prop to investors, saying like, hey, look, we can actually take money and turn it into more money.
You were just kind of a consultant almost, like using this other platform.
Yeah.
Did you say it was your platform?
Yeah, of course.
You're kind of white labeling. So you're kind of saying it's us.
Yeah.
You build it for them, and then essentially you're like, hey, like, what if we actually just
Built our
did
own.
have
Yeah.
this instead of just saying we had it,
Yeah.
and started launching from there?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's pretty neat. Like, I mean, I definitely kept it as secret as possible that we're white labeling another technology, but it took us about a year to build our own platform, and then we seamlessly migrated all of them off from the other platform onto ours, and ever since we're now one of the biggest in the market.
Yeah. So you've got about, as of this recording, about 47 people on the team.
Yeah.
I think when we talked the other day, you said you were trying to add about 30 more people in the next several months.
Yeah.
Are those mostly sales and kind of supporters and more
Yeah, I mean,
engineers?
we're gonna see it kind of like spread across the whole company, but definitely more marketers, more people in customer support. Sales and customer support are kind of the two departments where you're gonna get like the highest headcount in terms of scale. Where engineering will somewhat taper off at a certain point because what we're supposed to do as a SaaS company is get to scale, right? Where we can kind of have like a fixed cost structure, and then revenue can scale nicely on top of that without having to always increase your costs. But yeah, I see it. I think there's gonna be a lot in customer support and sales, and all throughout the org.
So I'm curious, like, how are you thinking about raising again? I mean, you've got this kind of cash cow of this, you call it an agency, services side of the business that I imagine you pull a ton of the revenue from that to go build that.
Yeah.
Do you want to go raise again? And like, what would make you raise again?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I mean, as a SaaS company, we've been very modulated with our burn rate. And I just had a meeting with some investors the other day, and the smallest checks they write are like 20, 25 million. I'm thinking to myself, man, what would I do with that much money? Like, I don't know how to burn that much money because
You'd figure it out.
Yeah.
You'd figure it out day one.
Well,
You'd be like, I got it. McLaren's.
Yeah, McLaren's, exactly. Marketing budget.
I'm talking to a guy that knows how to spend money on cars. I think you'd figure it out.
Yeah, we'll go buy some $1 million cars.
Yeah.
But I think we've been so efficient with our capital. Like, as we've been able to deploy it, we've been able to grow our revenue like quite nicely. So we haven't had like this insane burn rate, and I think that's a testament to like how scrappy our team is. And I think it's doing that, it causes you to be very calculated with your decisions because you only have so many bullets in the chamber. And we're just very calculated with it.
There's something really nice about just kind of having your back against the wall, not having, not being flushed with cash, and just saying, you know what, we've got to just eat what we kill today, and then do it again tomorrow, and then do it again the next day, and like survive it. It causes you to think totally differently. I know for us, right after we raised our seed round, from Y Combinator, it was like that next month, and we were trying to be scrappy, but we had kind of like lost, like we weren't frugal, like. We bought this golf simulator for our office that we were like, this is going to be the coolest thing. And 6 months later, we ended up taking it down because I was like, that's not what we need. Like, we don't need golf simulators here. Like, we ended up selling that thing off. I think right afterwards, we kind of just like lost perspective a little bit. I know that flows throughout the whole company and through what you build. Yeah,
I think that's certainly true. And as soon as you get flush with cash, like your runway just becomes so much longer because essentially money equals time as a startup. And that's what we're all trying to I guess not run out of, right? Because I view it as a startup, like you almost have like a gun pointed to your head like this, and as soon as time runs out, bang. And if your burn rate is way too high, like if you're not growing fast enough, like investors aren't going to want to, like you basically fall into 3 different categories as a SaaS company. One, you could be growing, say over 50 to 100% a year, and you're always going to have investors that are willing to put money in. So capital is always there if you're growing fast enough. If you're in no man's land where you're growing like under 50% a year, you're burning a bunch of cash, like you're pretty unattractive to investors, and like that's a really tough position to be in. Or you could be break even, burning maybe just a teeny bit of cash, or profitable and have a decent growth rate. Like that to me is the best position to be in, because I don't necessarily want to be beholden to investors or slaves to them. Like, why do we start these businesses as entrepreneurs? Are we just looking for jobs, or are we looking to actually, build companies that work for us in the long term?
Yeah, no, very cool. So let's talk about kind of the growth strategies from the beginning. So obviously you kind of got those first handful of clients, you launched, like what were like some of the early growth channels that seemed to work and you got like a big kick of customers from?
Yeah, for us, being in the app development space, unfortunately paid was like pretty much out of the question, because you Google like anything development related, like it's interesting who you see like bidding on AdWords. It's like you'll get Salesforce, you'll get Zoho, you'll get like all these like random guys that have tons of money that can just like fill up all this search results, and the cost per click is incredibly high because there's so much commercial intent. So I'm like, there's no way we're gonna be able to pull this off with paid. We'll just like blow through cash. So I decided to go more towards SEO and build like a sustainable moat around our business and sustainable traffic. And luckily, the guy I hired was incredibly good. He actually went on to go lead. He was the director of customer acquisition at HubSpot after working with us.
Really?
Yeah, so he ran our SEO campaign for about a year, and he just did a phenomenal job and got that initial kickstart for us. And we've just been continually building on that. And now, like, even if I just pulled my entire marketing budget, I'm still going to have hundreds of thousands of people a month on our site, plenty of leads for our sales team. That's just a really great position to be in. Unfortunately,
you wrote that check 4 years ago.
Yeah.
It's like every month, like you're saying, I hope this is going to pay off.
Yeah.
That's hard to do, especially when you don't have a ton of cash. So
and SEO isn't overnight either. So you got to bet on the long-term results of that. Where paid channels, like it's like a faucet, you turn it on or off. But it gives you like an incredible amount of scale, because if you're ROI positive on your ad spend, you just keep dumping that in until you get diminishing returns.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay, so you started getting traffic and getting growth through SEO.
Yeah.
What else was working, and how did you monetize that traffic?
Yeah, so first it was just how do we rank for like the commercial intent keywords like app builder, app maker, app creator. One of the things that was really interesting for us is we get, sometimes you get lucky in business, and like I think there's a bit of luck in any startup. And there was an article written by this company called Business News Daily or something, or some business site, and it ranked really well for a lot of these app builder related terms, and they just happened to sort it in alphabetical order. And for some reason, they didn't have other companies, like, there's one like Appy Pie or App Machine, so they didn't have any of the A's. It started with B, and Buildfire is at the top. So it was in alphabetical order, but we were at the top, so people assumed we were the best, and like that kind of gave us that little kickstart, like early on when we needed it. And then once we were able to sustainably grow on our own, like we were able to do that. But sometimes you get a little bit lucky, and there was a great article that ranked really well, and it sent a ton of referral traffic. I mean, that article was probably worth like several $100,000 to us.
Amazing. All your companies in the future are going to be starting with an A or a B.
Yeah.
It's just because, like, just in case it hits that.
Yeah.
Okay. And was that mostly people would come in and start the free trial? And how did you price things at the beginning? How has that changed?
Yeah,
so
we started off just as like flat $49 a month, and it was just basically all like free trial driven. So we kind of had these different inflection points in our business where we realized that we needed to, I guess, expand our services offering. So we started our pro services department, so where we'd actually build apps for them. And first it just started off as, I think we'd like build apps for people for like $500, like just tiny amounts. But slowly enough, like we started working our way. We were doing like a couple $1,000 apps, and then we start to move our way up into like large custom apps. And what's interesting is having that upfront revenue, and it's nice just for that. But we also make our customers a lot more successful when we were able to do that, because they come to us with challenges and problems, and they're looking at us to solve those problems. Like, people don't invest in your software just because, right? They need a business outcome, and we're the best ones to know how to do that using our own technology, right? So come to us with your problems. We're going to be your trusted advisor, your consultant, to ultimately help you accomplish those goals. And we look at the lifetime value of those customers where we build apps for them versus when they build them on their own. It's like 10x, right? And the apps are probably 10x better as well.
Those customers happier?
Yeah, I'd say so. And they're lower maintenance too. It's interesting. A lot of sometimes like your ankle biter, low dollar customers, the ones that actually eat up the majority of your resources. And I've actually heard this from like a bunch of SaaS companies, and you got to be really careful with how much support resources they consume. So I think it is interesting how people pay you more, they're generally less demanding.
That's what we found too. Yeah, it's less demanding. They don't get angry as fast. Yeah. They get it. They're like, you know what? I get that this is challenging. Where some of the people that like, don't even know how to use a computer are like so pissed because our software breaks. It's like, this is hard. Yeah. Like, I wish you to kind of understand that. Like, work with us on that.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. You'll have people paying you like $150, and to, like, what's your alternative to actually build an app? It's like generally tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars, and they're bitching about it. Yeah. And like, why does this not work or whatever? And they're just consuming all your support resources. I don't know.
You're offering something that wasn't possible 6 years ago.
Yeah,
You know, it's like
totally.
they're so frustrated it doesn't work.
Yeah, it's like people getting, I mean, if you like take, for example, flying, right? We're literally flying through a metal tube through the air.
Complaining about why the
Yeah, why
peanuts
is my
aren't better.
Wi-Fi not working or something?
I think about that with the Wi-Fi on the plane. It's like,
Yeah.
wow, this is cutting edge. Like 10 years ago, it was like mind-blowing that you could even do anything.
I know.
Okay, very cool. So as far as your growth, we were talking earlier, and you kind of talking about how
Yeah.
sales is becoming a bigger part of it. And
Yeah.
you're wanting to kind of ramp. You feel like you've kind of cracked the code and gotten a funnel and gotten a sales process that's working well. You're putting money in,
Yeah.
getting more money out. What does that
Yeah.
look like, and how are you thinking about scaling the sales side?
Yeah, so our sales team just handles all of our inbound leads, and one of the things that I noticed early on in 2018 is that we were generating all these leads, but my sales team really wasn't maximizing the value of them. And the more valuable your leads are, the more you can go spend to acquire them. If you think about it as a SaaS company, the one that's going to win is the person that can spend the most on customer acquisition, right? And if you're operating off thin margins, your conversion rates stink, you're just going to have far less money to play with, and you're just going to be up against people that have far larger budgets. So you're always in a much better position when you can pay a lot more to acquire a customer. So I noticed we were generating all these leads, but we weren't capturing the maximum lead value. So I really started to invest in building our sales team. I think the first thing was getting like true senior sales leadership on board. So I hired an incredible VP of sales, and she came in to rebuild the sales team. And we've learned a lot. Unfortunately, it's not an overnight process because sales cycles do take like 30 to 90 days, and you need months worth of data to identify trends. So it's never an overnight fix, but we were able to start like rapidly increasing our revenue once we started to make some pretty basic adjustments and stay like data driven. Listen to our sales conversations. Like one of the tools that we use a tool called Gong, and it's an AI tool that listens to all of our sales conversations, so we can like kind of have a quantitative view of our like the quality of our sales conversations and like how much is like each rep talking, and kind of give like more data-driven feedback to improve the quality of our sales conversations.
That's helpful.
Yeah,
it actually works.
Oh yeah, totally. And then you can also build like a library of sales training material. So when you onboard new reps, they can listen to training materials. Like it's pretty cool. So, I feel like for us, like there's a lot of problems that every business has that you need to solve. So how are you going to prioritize that? For me, the leading domino is sales, because really tough to grow a company without revenue. So let's focus on generating as much revenue as possible.
You feel like the product has gotten to a place where the product is good. It fits. Customers like it.
Yeah.
There's all things you want to do, but you're at a place where you can start pouring on the fire, pouring on the gasoline.
Yeah, exactly. I think our product, because our product is so flexible, and like, hey, if we can't do it, we can easily custom build it for you. So it's really not a lot of limitations for us. So once we were able to start like maximizing our lead value and volume,
How do you know it's maximized? Like, what does that mean in your mind? What are you looking at to say, okay, I think we're doing well with these leads?
Yeah, because I'm looking at just like how much were we making off our current leads, or maybe 6 months ago versus now, and when you've essentially doubled or tripled that, you're like, okay, we're
What's
doing
like
better.
your lead value now?
Well, I mean, my sales team was going from like maybe $50K, $60K a month in like new customers to now like 250, almost 300,000 a month.
You didn't up the leads all that much?
No.
So from the same batch of leads, you're able to get 5 or 6 times.
Yeah, and like also some of my reps were the same. It was just under better leadership and management. So now, and we still have a long way to go. It's not perfect, and we will get better at that over time as we uncover more insights. And also, so now my most recent hire has been a VP of marketing, and I'm incredibly excited to have him on board, because I mean, your VP of sales and your VP of marketing are the revenue engine of your business, right? And unfortunately, I was stuck doing marketing for far too long. Being a CEO and running marketing is a little bit much. So I'm very happy to pass that torch on. And now sales can have a lot more support from marketing. And I think I view them as like multiplier effects. Like, who are the key people that you're going to build it or bring into your business that are going to just provide like multipliers? Like when I look at take your sales team, right? Say you have 5 reps and call it like, say their quota is like 50K, or they're going to hit 5 times 50, and then like who's time, then what's your multiplier by your VP of sales? Like how much more can they get out of the team that they would not otherwise be able to get? So is that like a times 2 multiplier, times 3, whatever it may be? Like I kind of see it as just a mathematical equation. Like how are they going to maximize like the revenue per employee in many aspects?
Like you think about your company like very data driven, like just like this big math problem.
Yeah, it's a puzzle piece. I mean, essentially all we do as entrepreneurs and even all your employees, we're just solving problems. Like when you hire people, I think like, is this person going to solve problems for me or cause problems for me? Because you can go through your list of employees and say, hey, this person, like think about like you have a problem, who's the employee that you're going to hand it to that's going to just get the job done and solve it for you? And like those people are so valuable in your business. And how do you have all your people operating on that level?
Love it. So what do you want Buildfire to be doing, or what do you think you'll be doing in like 10 years from now?
10 years?
Way out ahead.
Hopefully have exited by then.
Is that the plan from the start?
Plan from the start, yeah, as an exit. Plus you got to pay back investors. And I think it's just like a natural course for these companies. You start them, you grow them, you get to the point where you want to exit them, and you kind of go through that full life cycle. I think that's it's an exciting journey, and I think there's really interesting milestones that you accomplish along the way, like getting to your first $1 million in revenue, then your first 10 million, maybe your first 50 million in revenue. Like those are all really interesting problems that you have to solve. Interesting part of the journey, and then like I'm excited just going through the whole aspect of like selling a business. Like I haven't sold a business or exited a business yet, but it'll be really fun to deal with maybe private equity firms or strategic buyers and just see how they value companies, and what are the drivers of enterprise value, and like that's just going to be a huge learning experience for me. And then how do I store that in the memory bank and then go off and do this over and over again? Because ultimately what I want to do is like I want to play, hopefully it's a big enough exit where I can go play with my own money and start to go buy companies and like take all the processes that I learned scaling my business and apply it to those other businesses. Because we were just having lunch with Dan Martell, and he had 5 exits or 5 businesses, and I was like, at what point did it become like mechanical, right? Where you just have this down to a science and a process. And he's like, yeah, by the 3rd one, I have it done. And now he coaches other entrepreneurs through their businesses, and I think everything growth can be boiled down to a science. Like there is a process for this. People have playbooks that work.
Repeatable process that just needs to be tweaked.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, I think like running your organization shouldn't be rocket science. There's a lot of books that are maybe this thick that you can just go read and give you the whole blueprints on how to run a business, and it's been data driven, or it's been tested by hundreds of companies, lots of research, a lot of really smart people that have distilled down all that information, that complex, disoriented data, and made it like so something you could easily consume, in a couple hours. So like it's out there. Just read it, absorb it, apply it, and kind of rinse and repeat.
Yeah, no, absolutely. All right, man. Well, we've got to wrap up here, and to wrap up, we have my favorite section. It's called the Salty 6.
Okay.
6 rapid fire, in your face questions to just learn a little bit more about you.
Cool. Let's do it.
That sound good?
Yeah.
Dude, you're like ready, man. All right.
Excited.
Number 1. What do you do for fun?
Ooh, lots of stuff. Surfing. I fly planes. Road biking. Exotic cars. Wakeboarding. Wake surfing, snowboarding, golf,
You're like the most
traveling.
You're like the most interesting man in the world. You're like the James Bond of SaaS.
Yeah.
Did I like read like a good book every now and then for fun?
I like reading too.
Of course. Why leave that off?
I know.
Dude, very cool. So you just love being outside and doing...
Yeah, always been into extreme sports, and I've just always been able to pick them up rather quickly. So
very cool.
It's fun.
All right. Do you have a morning routine? And if so, what is it?
Somewhat of a morning routine. I think routines are really important because we are creatures of habit, and like if you think about it, like everything is just cycles, right? Like the earth spins around, sun up, it goes up and down, and like you just put food through your body. Like you're just always cycling things through, and it's like, how do you modulate those habits over a sustained period of time to drive you to your end destination? So I don't have a super rigid morning routine, but I'll get up. I like to set an hour aside where I can just think, write things down. I think writing things down is incredibly important, because if you don't write it down, the odds of you achieving it or making it happen goes down substantially.
You write it down like pen and paper, or even just typing it? Okay, pen and paper.
But I write things down too on my phone, but pen and paper is always very kinesthetic.
I found it's harder for me to write stuff with pen and paper than it used to be. Like, I'm getting worse and worse at it. It's like leaving my body, the ability to like write my name with pen and paper. I'm just so much better at typing and texting. I can't spell
anything on pen and paper anymore.
No, autocorrect. Exactly. It's like horrible. I realize I don't know how to spell anymore, because like you don't have to know how to spell anymore.
That's true.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Number 3, how do you focus during the day? How do you kind of block out time, or any strategies you use to just get stuff done?
There's a really good book called Deep Work by Cal Newport. Highly recommend, and it's all about creating blocks during your day. One easy thing to do is just put on your calendar and just chunk things out, because generally we can focus max like maybe 1-2 hours if you're really good. Stay sustained on that specific task and only focus on that task. And also like theme your days. Like, hey, this is the day we're going to pack in all my meetings. This is the day that I'm going to work on this particular task. And like, once you get it all on a calendar for the week, you can start to modulate your efforts a bit better. And one of the things that I think is really interesting is, for me at least, at night, I'm able to see things in a completely different view and understand like what actually needs to be done. Where in the day-to-day, you got so much stimuli and you're like, wait, what should I be doing? So at night, if you plan things out during the day, you're like, all right, this is the next task, and just you go right through the list, and there's not a lot of question, and your body just feels like it's ready to do it. So I think planning at night and then just working your way through it during the day is incredible.
Sweet. Okay, what's a book that has impacted you deeply over the last few years?
And there's so many good books.
Could be business, could be personal.
I mean, one of the most interesting books I've read, I like Deep Work. I mean, that one was really incredible. I think one of the ones that transformed my business the most was a book called Who. Basically just how to hire better people. Because once you realize, businesses are just groups of people at the end of the day. And if you build like a high-performing group of people, you're going to be able to accomplish so much more. I mean, generally, a lot of the problems that present to your desk on a daily basis, they're people problems, right? Like, why didn't this get done, or whatever it may be. If you have the right people, you just have so many fewer problems. Like, if you go down the list of every single employee and you rate them on like A, B, or C, or D, how many A players do you have? The quantity of A players you have and the percentage of A players you have is going to significantly affect your outcome. And I wanted a predictable way to be able to hire people, and it was a book that was highly recommended. It's a simple read for me, and I've applied a lot of the principles to hiring.
That book changed our process too.
Yeah.
I had no process. I thought hiring was just like you just wing it.
Yeah.
And I read that and was just like, I need help. I'm just going to do this exactly. And like years later, it's still the exact formula that we use.
And then in terms of a personal book, there's a book called Sapiens. I think that is the one book every single human should read, hands down. It's all about like, why are we here in this day and age? Like, it's actually unbelievable to truly think about it. And it goes back to the whole history of humanity, and it combines both the historical as well as biological aspects of it, and really meshes those two things together well, and like causes you to think so deeply. I would say that's probably the most significant book I've ever read.
I thought the beginning of Sapiens was interesting.
Yeah,
dude. But I thought the guy tried to tackle way too much. I thought the beginning
book is like this thick.
I thought the beginning felt very like, at least like scientific, and like he's like citing sources.
Yeah.
And then he kind of just went off into like his own personal view of like the world, and I thought he kind of got off base, and like I stopped reading it halfway through because I was just like, this dude is just winging it, and he wasn't citing things as well. But I know a lot of people love it, so I feel like I was more in the minority reading this because I heard a bunch of other people talk about it, and it was amazing.
I mean, like you got guys like Bill Gates or Richard Branson or Obama like saying that this is like one of the best books out there. So I mean, it does have that kind of celebrity status. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really interesting when you get to like, where are humans going, right? If you think about like these little devices that we have in our pockets, like we're essentially cyborgs in many ways, because I mean the interface is, you still need to tap into it like this, but wearable tech, who knows if it turns into contact lenses or implants at some point, and like you have access to all the world's information right on this little device, and it's kind of weird to think about like how are we going to blend this type of technology with biology, and like where does that go over the next 10,000 years?
Yeah, like the score of every game the Los Angeles Lakers played this year. It just takes you a little bit to get it through the internet, but that is weird. All right, question number 5.
Okay.
Before we go off on this like existential tangent here.
Sure.
What's one of the best purchases under $150 that you've made recently?
Under $150. Probably a lift ticket to Schweitzer when we got just unbelievable powder. So, you think about it, like, what is the point of spending money? It's like experiences. And I look back and I have tons of photos from it, and like it's just a very memorable experience. Like I love scoring deep powder, and when it's an all-time 10 out of 10 day with your buddies.
Loving it.
Yeah.
That's
So
awesome.
I think for under $150,
Cool.
like an
That's a good one.
experience. Yeah.
That's a real good one. All right, and finally, what's a trait or characteristic that you have that has led to the success that you have today?
Always be curious. I've always wanted to learn more. I've always wanted to improve. It's both having a growth mindset is always being naturally curious. And the sense of natural curiosity, that's what got me into this business. Because when I went into college, I was like, how are websites built? I just was naturally curious. I'm like, oh, coding's like pretty interesting. How are apps built? That's interesting. And then like, how do you grow companies? Like, that's interesting too. So I'm always just asking questions. And really the quality of your questions are going to determine a lot of things, because it's going to really like determine how well you can solve problems. I would say just natural curiosity and just asking deep questions.
Very cool. I think that's true of so many entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
Just not afraid to ask, how do I do this? I don't
Yeah.
know how to do it. Very cool, man. Well, that's all we got. Thanks so much
Awesome.
for being on, man. If people want to follow you, or you on Twitter, do you have a blog? Just go to buildfire.com.
Yeah, you can go to buildfire.com. Probably the best way to find me is I'm on Instagram, Blair44. You can see some of my fun adventures, talking about all the stuff we were talking about, exotic
We
cars,
want to see the
snowboarding.
cars, man.
Yeah, the cars are on there. So check me out, Blair44 on Instagram, and you'll see some pretty cool memories. And
Perfect, man. Thanks for being here and sharing this wonderful rooftop with me.
Yeah.
By the way, it was a year ago today that we met on that boat, a year ago.
Happy anniversary.
I know, dude. It's good. Every year, we'll meet right back
It's
here.
the
We'll do another one.
bromance.
Yeah. Well, awesome, guys. Thanks for watching this episode of Scale or Die. We'll see you in the next one.